Welcome to Football Game Plan's NFL All-32 show here on the Game Plus Network. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook, and it's week 10 in the NFL. Man, it feels like the season is just whizzing on by. We had a great week last week as we saw Baltimore upset the New England Patriots, but this week is already off to a fantastic start as there already is a quarterback change, and we'll dive into that and other key topics as we go into our 4-minute offense. The Cincinnati Bengals are making a change at quarterback. Fourth-round rookie Ryan Finley out of NC State will get the start this weekend versus the Baltimore Ravens. Now, this essentially marks the end of the Andy Dalton era in the Queen City. Now, Dalton, who has been the starter since 2011 and who has compiled a 68-58-2 record, including 4 playoff appearances, is in the midst of one of his worst seasons as a pro. Bengals head coach Zach Taylor wants to get an extended look at Finley in some meaningful games this season, and he gets a huge first test against Baltimore fresh off of their victory against the New England Patriots. Now, in defense of Andy Dalton, he wasn't able to play with A.J. Green at all this season as Green dealt with an ankle injury during training camp. Now, this would be Green's first game back in the lineup, and now he'll have to deal with a rookie quarterback throwing him the football. One is left to wonder if inserting the rookie Finley in the lineup right now limits the Bengals' chances of winning a few games down the stretch. In my opinion, despite their 0-8 record, this isn't a terrible football team. They've been close a few times this season, so it will be interesting to see how this thing plays out for the Bengals the rest of the way. Who knows? Maybe they'll find out Finley can be their long-term answer, or will they go to another rookie and undrafted free agent, Jake Dolegala out of Central Connecticut State, who, in my opinion, has a higher upside than that of Finley. Over in our nation's capital, rookie quarterback Dwayne Haskins will earn his second consecutive start the next time the Washington Redskins take the field, which is the following weekend at home against the New York Jets. In his first start against the Buffalo Bills last weekend, Haskins went 15 of 22 for 144 yards and no touchdowns and no interceptions. Now, it was a very conservative game plan for interim head coach Bill Callahan. It was designed to get the rookie quarterback acclimated to a full NFL game while relying on the run game. Now, with 2 weeks to prepare for the New York Jets coming up, the expectation will be to see if Haskins can take an even bigger step forward in his game. While the numbers weren't overly impressive against the Bills, what was impressive was a 0 turnover number, and that was something that had plagued him in his first 2 appearances this season. Haskins threw 3 interceptions against the Giants when he was inserted for an ineffective Case Keenum, and threw 1 interception against the Vikings when he took over for an injured Case Keenum. So we'll see what consistency and playing time will bring for the young franchise quarterback in Week 11. I guess we'll stick with the quarterback position then, as there are a few quarterback situationships, I like to call them, to keep an eye on in Week 10. So let's start in Indianapolis, where longtime veteran Brian Hoyer will get the start against the Detroit Lions. Hoyer filled in nicely last week for an injured Jacoby Brissett against the Pittsburgh Steelers, throwing 3 touchdown passes and an interception. I guess you could say 4 touchdowns because that interception went all the way back for a touchdown by Minkah Fitzpatrick. But all jokes aside, while Hoyer was able to keep this team on pace and get the win, it'll be interesting to see if he can show much better pocket awareness against Detroit, as he took 4 sacks last week against that very tough Steelers defense. Over in Kansas City, the Chiefs expect their franchise quarterback Patrick Mahomes to be back in the lineup. Now, Mahomes missed the last 2 games recovering from a dislocated kneecap on a quarterback sneak against the Denver Broncos. Now, prior to that injury, Mahomes was 10 of 11 for 76 yards and a touchdown in that ball game. So he feels ready to go, but if he doesn't, the Chiefs have the comfort in knowing that reserve Matt Moore, who did an admirable job in relief for the reigning MVP, can step up to the plate and get the job done. Now that we've crossed the midway point of the 2019 NFL season, let's take a look at the 8 first-year head coaches and how they're faring so far around the league. You have Zach Taylor of the Cincinnati Bengals, Adam Gase of the New York Jets, Brian Flores of the Miami Dolphins, Freddie Kitchens of your Cleveland Browns, Cliff Kingsbury of the Arizona Cardinals, Vic Fangio of the Denver Broncos, Bruce Arians of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Matt LaFleur of the Green Bay Packers. Combined, they have a 19-47-1 record on the season. Now, each one has had their fair share of ups and downs so far this season, some during the offseason and preseason, and some currently in the regular season. Of all the coaches with losing records, you can definitely make a case for a few of them, like Flores, Fangio, and Arians, of having their guys compete hard week in, week out, and ready to play. So it should make for a fun back half of the season, as we'll continue to see how these coaches progress with their respective squads. Now it's time to preview our Thursday night matchup, and this week we have an AFC West matchup between the Los Angeles Chargers and the Oakland Raiders. The Chargers are coming into this ball game on a 2-game winning streak. Their last victory against the Green Bay Packers was probably their most impressive one of the season. We saw that defense of Los Angeles choke out that Packers offensive attack, kept those guys sputtering all game long. Now their offense started to find their way in the second half. You had a big play by Mike Williams down the sideline that really broke the game open. So in this matchup against the Raiders, I think defensively they have to play the run on the way to the quarterback. They have to take away Josh Jacobs, who's having an impressive rookie season for the Raiders, take him out of the equation and make this a Derek Carr versus Phillip Rivers ball game. If they're able to do that and accomplish that, it gives them a great chance to win. When you move on to Oakland in this ball game, I've been very impressed with their offensive attack. Again, they're versatile, they're diversified, they're getting the running game going, they're playing with balance. Carr is pushing the ball downfield, the receivers are stepping up. I still worry about their defense. Right now, they're not able to get pressure. I think they're stronger on the interior than they are on the outside, and that's a problem because, again, you have a 4th overall selection in Cleveland Ferrell that's not producing like you want to see him produce right now as a rookie. But I do like the secondary. I think they match up well actually against the Chargers, but I like Los Angeles to win this ball game. This will be a very tough contested matchup because both teams are still in play for that AFC West title. If not that title, they definitely can be in position to get that 6th spot in the wild card of the AFC playoff race. So this is a pivotal game in the AFC, but I do feel as though the Chargers offense will get into gear and take advantage of a decent Raiders defense. We'll take a quick commercial break and be back with more Football Game Plan's NFL All-32 show. Football Game Plan is brought to you in part by 9th and Lux. Visit the website 9thandlux.com and check out the clothing gallery. Do You Music with featured artist IW in his latest album, Season 2. You can check that out on iTunes as well as doyoumusic.com. Nesby Phipps, art, life, entertainment. NesbyPhipps.com. Grind It Out Fitness. Visit the website grinditoutfitness.com and download the app. Be sure to order your copy of the Go-Go Offense by Coach Brennan Marion on footballgameplan.com/GoGoOffense. Coach Marion goes through the ins and outs of his explosive offense, one that's tearing up the college football field and putting a lot of points on the scoreboard. Again, you can order your copy at footballgameplan.com/GoGoOffense.
Well, the game of football has taught me so many things, man. Now, think about the huddle we have right now, right? I tell people this all the time. There's a reason why they call it a huddle. People have been huddling all their lives, trying to find ways to enhance each other's lives. The great teams do that all the time. The great teams do that. The better the huddle, the better the team. And so it's simple, man, how if you huddle for all the right reasons, we wouldn't have Ferguson. We wouldn't have some of the challenges that we have in our society. But as we all know, there's always a moment when somebody doesn't belong in the huddle. And yet we have to continue to move on. We got to continue to play. So the game of life, man, is always starting with a huddle. And for me, I'm lucky enough to know that, by the graces of God, man, it's been a nice huddle. It's been a nice huddle. And if I just keep making sure that he's in front of me, I'm gonna be all right.
All right, welcome back to Football Game Plan's NFL All-32 show, and we'll get back to previewing some ball games. Let's go to Chicago, where the Bears play host to the Detroit Lions. Now, for Detroit, coming into this ball game off of a tough loss to the Oakland Raiders, I thought they played really well enough to get that win out there in Oakland. They face a Bears team that's down, but not out defensively. Maybe offensively, they're starting to question themselves and their motivations around quarterback Mitchell Trubisky, but that defense of Chicago is still that defense of Chicago, and I think that reason alone will do a great job of keeping the Detroit Lions on the opposite end of the scoreboard as the Bears get the win. We move on now to the Queen City, where the Cincinnati Bengals and their 0-8 record host the red-hot Baltimore Ravens, coming off of an outstanding victory against the New England Patriots. I think the entire country got to see on full display the Lamar Jackson experience. This is a guy that does a great job throwing the football. He's a great leader. He has a temperament that you want to succeed at the position long term, and also has that tremendous athleticism that makes it an 11-on-11 game. All of that being said, I thought it was more impressive the defensive performance for the Baltimore Ravens against the Patriots, and they face a Bengals offense that's struggling to find its consistency, especially in the running game. Their offensive line right now, I don't think can handle that downward pressure of Baltimore, so I'm going to go with the Ravens to knock off Cincinnati out there in the Queen City. Next up, we have the Cleveland Browns facing the Buffalo Bills in what I think is a pivotal AFC matchup for playoff reasons for the Buffalo Bills. They have to come out here in this ball game against Cleveland and take advantage of a team that's struggling mightily on the offensive side of football. But we saw last week the Washington Redskins were able to run the football against this Bills front. That's something they're going to have to get cleaned up, because they're going to face a Browns team that will now have an active Kareem Hunt along with Nick Chubb in the backfield running the football, and I think that'll happen in this ball game. Look for head coach Freddie Kitchens to lean more on those two tailbacks to help them get the victory against Buffalo. I do like Cleveland. I do feel as though they'll get off the schneid. It'll be because of their running game as the reason why they'll knock off Buffalo. Now, as we move on to Tennessee, as they play host to Kansas City, now they're going to face a Patrick Mahomes-led offense coming into Nashville. And the biggest question I have for Kansas City is whether or not Patrick Mahomes will feel comfortable enough moving around like he does in the passing game to get the ball deep down the field to guys like Tyreek Hill and company. So it'll be interesting to watch how healthy he is on the onset. So I think there's an opportunity for Tennessee to take full advantage by putting pressure on Mahomes to see if they can get him off the spot, see how comfortable he is in moving on that dislocated kneecap, that healthy dislocated kneecap. So all that said, I do like the fact that the Chiefs defense has played well since Mahomes has been out. I thought they stepped up big after that Packers game. So I feel as though their defense will be a big reason why they knock off Tennessee. I like what they're doing so far as the season rolls along. Down in the Big Easy, New Orleans is playing host to Atlanta, who is coming off of a bye. The Falcons offense, I think, can have some success against this aggressive Saints defense. Now, when you look at the Falcons defense, that's where the problem begins, and I think that's where the Saints can come in and take full advantage. Now, we know these two teams play a great game. Every time they play, it doesn't matter the record, it doesn't matter the location. These two are the best. This is the best rivalry, I believe, in the NFL, and we'll see that on full display in the Superdome. The Saints offense, also coming off of a bye, have to hit the ground running. If they come out sluggish and give that Falcons team confidence they could lose, I don't see it happening. I do think the New Orleans Saints get their win and continue to roll along in the NFC. Out here in New York City, the Giants and Jets meet up in MetLife for the Battle of New York. Now, quietly, a lot of people gave the Giants a lot of flack for taking Saquon Barkley over any one of those quarterbacks in the 2018 draft. However, when you look at it now, and you have to really ask yourself, is Daniel Jones actually a better quarterback than Sam Darnold? That's going to be on full display. That's probably one of the bigger headlines in this matchup. But for the Jets, they really do need their quarterback to step up and play well. I just don't see their offense having any type of success against the Giants. I think the Giants do play a good brand of football. They may not be as consistent as you would like, but this is a football team that plays hard. They play well in spurts, and we've seen their offense fight their way through adversity, find ways to be explosive, find ways to put points up on the board. You can't say the same thing about the Jets offense outside of the Dallas Cowboys game, and even in that game, they only scored 24 points. So I like the Giants to take over the Jets in MetLife. So stick around, because after this quick commercial break, we'll be back with more Football Game Plan here on the Game Plus Network. Football Game Plan is brought to you in part by Financial Coaching LLC, Investment, Retirement, Security. Stewardship Credit. Financial growth is in your hands. StewardshipCredit.com. Adrienne Marie Photo. Photographer, writer, management. AdrienneMariePhotography.com. Lock Multimedia.
I love football. I cannot get enough of football. I watch it on every level.
The emotional release. Whether it's an exciting play that gets you all jacked up and juiced, or whether it's the fact that you're able to pour everything you have. Whatever frustration you had that week, you can put into that first kickoff coverage, that first block that you have, whatever it might be.
And I couldn't think of anything better to do to fill that void that you have as a football player than to get into coaching.
You get a chance to release a lot of emotion that you otherwise have no place to release. There's nothing else like that.
Again, the relationships you build and the people you're around and watching the guys compete, not just on the football field, but in life after they get done playing. It's just an amazing game.
I know your guys' favorite quarterbacks, but I'm going to let you wax poetically. People can see my opinion on the website, so I don't want to waste too much time. Emery, I'm going to let you go first. I know who it's been for basically about the past, year, who your guy is, so go ahead.
It's Lamar Jackson. I mean, from a fantasy perspective, from a real-life perspective, he's the guy that changes the game. And you mean to tell me a guy can throw for 300 yards and rush for 150 yards and score 6 touchdowns total? I want that guy on my team. I want that guy on my fantasy team. I want him on my real football team. To me, that's the one player that really dictates how you cover him, how you defend him. It makes everybody around him better because you're only going to see certain coverages, mostly zone, because you can't play man versus a mobile quarterback, especially one that's as fast as him. You can't really spy him with the linebacker because he's going to outrun him, so you have to sacrifice the safety, which will then make the tight end one-on-one. Receivers get one-on-one coverage. The running game is going to be better because you can't really crash down and defend the run. Got to keep the backside gate closed, and that's where the running game happens. So that's the number one player in this draft. I just find it comical that a guy with this talent, this level of production and consistency and growth over the last 3 seasons is not talked about as being the number one option in this draft.
Oh, no, we got to put him at wide receiver, Emery. Come on now. Look, I know that's ridiculous. You know it's ridiculous. Let's ask the bigger question here. Is he the next Michael Vick? And if so, is he going to break Madden just like Michael Vick did?
This is why it's so funny, because I was in college. We were, playing college ball when Vick was happening, and we actually ended up getting the offensive coordinator from Virginia Tech to be our next head coach. This was happening 2 years down the line, obviously. But at that time, we were like, man, this guy is great. And he was all projection because he wasn't the most polished passer. Their offense was 75% power running game and Vick off play action, finding somebody open and scrambling. But you couldn't pass on him at one because you'd never seen a quarterback run a 4.2. You've never seen a quarterback with that laser of an arm. We're going to figure it out, but we got to take him. With Lamar Jackson, you're getting a more polished version of Michael Vick, a guy that's a more elusive runner that can protect himself so he won't get hurt, and a guy that can throw the football coming out of a pro-style offense at Louisville with that Earhart Perkins offense that he runs with Bobby Petrino. And keep in mind, Petrino, we never got to see what he would have looked like with Michael Vick because Vick went to jail. This is exactly what it would have looked like had Vick and Petrino been able to work together in the league. This is a can't-miss prospect, in my opinion. Enough gloating, let's get back to previewing some games. Arizona travels to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers, and this is an intriguing matchup in my opinion because you have this Cardinals passing attack that I thought caught fire on the back half of that 49ers game, going up against a beat-up secondary in Tampa Bay. However, you do have a Tampa Bay offense doing a great job of throwing the football. Both receivers, Chris Godwin and also Mike Evans, are on pace for over 1,400 yards. I think the Bucs actually wins this ball game. I like their offense. I like how they're playing for Jameis Winston. I do think he'll protect the football and get the win. Moving on to Indianapolis as they play host to the Miami Dolphins. When you look at the Dolphins in this ball game, you talk about a team that's playing inspired football, got their first victory. We'll see how they'll handle success, but you like how they're playing for head coach Brian Flores. On the other side, the Colts did a great job in rallying around Brian Hoyer. They leaned on that ground game. The passing game actually was able to stay on pace. Their defense is still stout. I think the defense will be the reason why they knock off Miami. Moving over to Green Bay now as they play host to the Carolina Panthers. This is a big game in the NFC. If you're Green Bay, you want to get back on the winning track. But if you're Carolina, your mindset coming into this ball game is, hey, we have to get a win because this NFC race, this playoff picture is going to be tight. So look for them to lean heavily on Christian McCaffrey to try to get that over-aggressive defense of Green Bay caught in a bad situation. I just don't trust this Panthers passing attack against this Green Bay defense, so I'm taking the Packers. Over in Pittsburgh, the Steelers are playing host to the Rams, who are coming off of a bye week. And this is a very interesting game, in my opinion, because this is going to be a strength versus strength battle. The strength of the Rams, I believe, is their offense. I know their defense, especially up front, is very good, but in this game, their offense is a strength. They're going up against the Steelers' defense that has gotten better since Minkah Fitzpatrick came over to that secondary. But the offense of Pittsburgh is where I have some concerns. I don't think they can knock off the Rams. You have to be able to score points against that Rams defense. I can't trust Mason Rudolph. I like the Rams. Huge matchup for Sunday Night Football we have in the NFC between Minnesota and the Dallas Cowboys. I think this could be a playoff preview as both teams look really strong on both sides of the ball. Defensively is what you're going to keep your eye on in this ball game. The Vikings defense, we talk about it all the time. Great athleticism at all three levels. Can they contain that Cowboys offense? Can they stop the run? But ultimately, can Kirk Cousins supersede any pressure he's going to see from that Cowboys defense with DeMarcus Lawrence and also Jalen Smith at the second level and the host of athletic secondary players that they have on the back end? It's going to be up to Cousins, in my opinion, to help keep this offense on pace. I also think for the Cowboys, their offense sputtered a little bit against the Giants. They have to hit the ground running if they want to have success. I think that will happen. I like Dallas, especially Dak Prescott, in big game situations, more so than Kirk Cousins. And finally, Monday Night Football, great matchup out west, Seattle versus San Francisco. This is going to be the first real test, in my opinion, for this 49ers football team. But you talk about Seattle, you're talking about who I think is the MVP right now in Russell Wilson, 22 touchdowns to only 1 interception, keeping that offense on pace, and defensively they're active, aggressive, and turning the ball over. San Francisco quietly comes into this ball game getting healthier up front. I think because they're getting healthier, it's going to make this a very tight game. Plus, we know what their defense can do, but I don't think they have the offensive weapons to overcome a Russell Wilson-led football team. I think the Seahawks will win in a shootout. This game will look a lot like the Cardinals game with the Seahawks coming out on top. So that's it for this week's episode of Football Game Plan's NFL All-32 here on the Game Plus Network. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Be sure to follow me on all of my social media accounts, and don't forget to check out and subscribe to the Football Game Plan Network located at youtube.com/footballgameplan. Also, subscribe on iTunes to Football Game Plan Podcast, where you can find our NFL All-32 podcast amongst other tremendous audio content. And finally, keep it locked here on the Game Plus Network for Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, as we will have our Football Game Plan College Football Tailgate Show. Again, check with your cable provider for channel listings.